Hey friends, so once again it's the Wild Facebook forum. I had a very funny comment this week. A friend of mine was like, "Hey Sarah, how is your Women of Wonder Facebook program going?" And I was like, "What? Women of Wonder? It's not Women of Wonder. It is Words of Wisdom Facebook forum." And then the short form is the Wild Facebook forum. Thank you guys. You've been so helpful. Thank you for the encouragement and thanks for your support. So today's forum, I have a very dicey and a bit complicated and difficult question to handle. And as I always say, I am not the custodian of wisdom alone. It's a forum, so you get to share your comments and your views and your thoughts. So we have a question today to tackle, and this is the question. It says that my husband is a porn addict. It is affecting our intimate relationship. What do I do? My husband is a porn addict. It's affecting our intimate relationship. What do I do? Well, when I heard this question, it's a difficult one. And I just want to read a story of a woman who experienced the same thing. And I believe that after reading the story, we would know how to handle this. So let's just go straight to it. This situation happened in 1996 and it's by Karen Hall. And this is what she says. What happened when I discovered my husband's porn addiction? It's deeply traumatic to discover that your spouse is hiding an addiction, but here is how I found healing. I was living my dream life. My husband and I and our 2 children were homesteading in Vermont. We raised our own huge organic garden, had horses, raised turkeys and chickens, and had a cow. And I was homeschooling our kids. This happened in America. It was what many would view as an idyllic existence. And yet something was wrong in our marriage. I just didn't know what it was. 19 years in, I could have never imagined my husband had a secret wreaking havoc on his personal life that was about to wreak havoc on our marriage. My husband wasn't the type you would think would have a secret life. I had met my husband when he was working in the White House, where he had security clearance for his job. He was raised by parents who were career missionaries. He and I taught Sunday school together when we were dating. In other words, by all appearances, he was living an honest and squeaky clean life. I thought I had chosen an amazing man to be my husband and father of my children. But something felt wrong. I couldn't figure out what it was. It wasn't necessarily that my husband was absent a lot in the marriage, I thought. He would work very long hours, but since my own father had done that, I didn't see any red flags. He was very busy building his career, so I grew up thinking my job is to support a husband while he builds a career. My job is to take care of the home. But for the moment when he was there, he wasn't really there. He would stare into the distance. Nothing I could do make him engage. My suspicions turned into nightmares that my husband was cheating on me. I asked him point blank, and he denied it. Ultimately, I decided I couldn't ignore my intuition any longer. I decided to assume he was lying to me and move forward with my life based on that. Then one day, I got a call from a credit card company notifying me of a past due balance. I didn't even know my husband had hit this credit card. When I confronted him about it, my worst fears were confirmed. He said, "I don't have a problem with money. I have a problem with lust." It turns out my husband was addicted to porn. Despite his efforts to stop, he couldn't. He told me the truth that day. What had been bubbling under the surface for years was finally out. I thought this would be the turning point to saving our marriage, but I didn't realize how hard this addiction would be to overcome, even for 2 people who wanted to have sexual fidelity with each other. I have compassion for how my husband became addicted to porn. Having grown up mostly in Africa, where his parents were missionaries, he found himself a young high school grad back in the United States, a foreign country to him, and his family was on another continent far, far away. The summer before college, he worked installing harvester silos. He found a porn magazine in one of the company pickup trucks he was driving. Years later, when he confessed his addiction, he told me he felt like the girl in the magazine was smiling right at him. A feeling of connection at an otherwise lonely time. When he dropped out of college because he didn't have enough money for tuition, he got drafted to serve in the infantry during the height of the Vietnam War. He was required to get frequent haircuts, and his base barbershop was plastered with centerfolds. Looking at pictures of beautiful women helped him forget his fear and loneliness. If you understand the way porn works, that looking at porn gives you an initial good feeling or feel good rush of endorphins and acaphalins that can be just as addicting as drugs like cocaine's. His story makes sense. But this addiction escalates because watching porn releases dopamine in the brain in such great amounts that the brain shuts down the dopamine receptors, desensitizing them to prior content and causing users to need more extreme content to release more dopamine for the same effect. My husband told me he had an inner sense that his behavior wasn't consistent with his beliefs as a Christian, so he kept it all hidden, even from his army buddies. He told himself once he got married, he wouldn't need it anymore. But by then, he was severely addicted. What started with magazines and visits to strip clubs propagated or progressed to him hiring prostitutes, behavior characteristics of many who have addictions to porn. Over time, he needed more and a lot stronger stimuli for his brain to reach the same dopamine levels to feel good for such a little while to get that fix. Once his job required him to travel and he got a credit card for expenses, he had an opportunity to support this addiction in secret. I'm just about to wrap up. When I discovered my husband's secret, I had mixed feelings. On one hand, it was a giant relief to know that I was not crazy, that truly was something wrong. But on the other hand, my worst nightmare had come true, and it was worse than I would ever have imagined. I could hardly relate to my husband anymore. Who are you? I thought. I have lived with you all these years, and I don't even know you. The things he was doing were so inconsistent with who I thought he was. It broke my heart. Lastly, meanwhile, my husband's addiction continued. There were periods of time when he was sober and times when I thought we were going to make it, but then he would relapse. Then his behavior got very scary. I could hardly recognize him. We'd been married for 28 years at this point, but I saw facial expressions I had never seen. Enraged looks would just come up spontaneously. We would go to church and he would have his arm around me. Then in the car, he would give me an absolutely hateful, enraged look. It got to a point where I was frightened of my own spouse. All the while, I saw signs his addiction was continuing in full swing. This is a very long story, my friends, and it's very disheartening. Like, at the point when I was reading this, like, I was shaking. This is a true story that happened to a woman. Maybe you just listened to this or you just heard the story and you could relate to it. Maybe this is what is happening in your home. I can imagine what you feel. So friends, what do we do about this? If you're married to a man who is addicted to porn, It gets to a point, as we read, like it gets to a point where they can't even relate to you again. They begin to hate you for no reason because they feel somebody is giving them something that you are not able to. If you find yourself in such a situation, well, these are my thoughts, my little advice I give to you. First of all, as the woman said, you have to feel pity for your spouse. Like, I think you have to be sympathetic towards the person. We should know that addiction is slavery. That's how I see it. Anytime you are addicted, when you continue reading the story, she talks about the fact that you lose control over yourself. So such a person in this situation, he feels like he has lost everything. He feels imprisoned. He feels he's enslaved. So as a spouse, this is not a time where you go, on him, hitting so hard, insulting him, complaining and everything. This is a time you have to feel sympathy for him and feel sorry for him. So you have to also accept the fact that this is the situation, this is what I'm going through. When you accept the fact that, well, he's addicted to it, he's enslaved to it, then I think it would help you to better understand and know how to handle it. After this step, the next one, if you're a Christian, I would tell you to pray. I know it sounds like, yeah, that's what she's going to say, prayer. I've prayed and prayed and prayed. What else should I do? Well, you don't just pray. I talk about prayer because I know what prayer has done for me. And I believe in prayer. So if your husband is going through something like this, number one, know that he's been enslaved, he's been imprisoned. And number two, the understanding should be that the good books makes us understand that you are now a custodian of his body. You control his body. 1 Corinthians chapter 7 will tell you that. His body belongs to you. So if he belongs to you, why would you allow somebody else to take control over him? This is war, my sister. This is war. If you haven't watched War Room, I want you to go and watch it. When I watched that movie, I got a different understanding about marriage and about taking control of what belongs to you. So when you go on your knees, you are going because, it's like presenting your case to the courts. This is mine. Let me just give you this example. Let's say you have an inheritance from your father. But when he gave you that inheritance, you were just a kid, so you didn't even know anything. But you have legal document that has your name and everything. When you grow up, are you going to tell me that, well, now somebody is occupying that house? Maybe it's a mansion. Somebody has it. So, well, I know it's mine, but I'm just going to forget about it anyway because, it's for somebody. No, you have all the legal documents. So you have to pursue it and you have to take possession of it. This is the same thing that is happening in your home. Your husband belongs to you. Maybe your wife too. Your wife belongs to you. Take legal possession, stand on your ground and pray and defend them. You have to take them out of that slavery, and you can do it because maybe that is why God made you marry them in the first place. After that, I would want you to seek counseling. Especially in Ghana, when we talk about counseling, the first thing is I'm going to talk to my pastor. I would say not all pastors are professional counselors. Yes, they have the anointing and everything, but doesn't mean that they are, professional counselors or they will know how to even counsel you on this. We have psychotherapists, we have professional counselors. Please seek help from somebody who is neutral, who is going to help you. So seek the counsel first for yourself to help you. Because according to the story, the woman said later on, she realized that she was encountering post-traumatic disorders. The whole thing was so traumatic for her. But she was going on that program, was helping her. So you need help yourself. You need to work on yourself to be able to handle the pain and, the shock and all the trauma that you're going through. So after you go through this counseling, then you can talk to your husband into enrolling in such a program. If he is not willing to do that, then that means he is not willing to stop his behavior in the first place. You can report him to his parents or people he respects and all that. Try something. If he doesn't, then it's another thing we will talk about. But then afterwards, I would also say that, as I said initially, you have to stop complaining. You have to stop, being suspicious, reading his every mail, checking his laptop and all that. When you do that, it's just like pouring petrol on fire. You are just worsening the situation. I would say this woman, according to her story, she focused on her life. She forgot about her husband and concentrated on her own life. Out of this situation, she became a writer. And her first book is titled Affair of the Mind. You know, it sold big time. What if she had concentrated on the husband and just spent hours in the room just crying and, you know, feeling sorry for herself? That is not going to help you. Focus on your life. What can you do with yourself? Forget about him. If you want to seek a divorce, then it's another thing. Pray about it, seek counseling, talk to people. And if you think it has gotten to a point where, in this case, where the guy became so aggressive, you know, becoming so violent, then there's another thing you have to look into. Maybe that is what is going to help you. Maybe you have to separate for a while. But if you decide to stay married, then please put these things in place and ignore him and focus on your life. Maybe you have kids, you want to think about the kids, you want to think about your life. If you want to stay married in this relationship, then I think when you put these things in place, it's going to help you. Finally, I'm going to say, my brothers, if you are addicted to porn, please don't wait and assume that, oh, when I get married, everything is going to stop. That is what that guy thought. It's not going to stop when you get married. The presence of a wife is not going to stop your addiction. If there's something you have to do about your porn addiction, please, the time is now. It's now or never. Don't wait until you bring a lady into your life before you think of working on it. It's not going to help. And then to our parents, please, let's be conscious about what we expose our children to. I have a friend who got addicted to porn when he was a child. Because in the house, his siblings, his cousins, his aunties, they were all watching it. And, you know, you would think of, let's sack them. Hey, all children, go away. But children are very smart. He was hiding behind a window, and he was always watching with them. And then what started as, you know, just a child watching it became a problem for him the rest of his life. It took the grace of God for him to come out of it. So please be particular about the movies you watch, the videos you watch, the kids are watching. And you don't want to be the cause of a problem for your child. I'm just going to end here. These are my thoughts. And I believe with the grace of God, with prayer, with consistency, you will be able to fight this battle. This is a battle. It's a war. And you have to win. You don't just have to let it go. Friends, please share your comments, your ideas. What do you think that this lady should also do? It was another good time discussing this, reading the story. I hope to meet you guys next week. And I hope your comments and your suggestions and your thoughts is going to help somebody going through this situation. Once again, it's your girl. And thanks for making time to watch this. Bye.